Hello all, my name is James Fitzgerald, and today I will be telling you about reducing noncompliance in children with autism. The current study investigates the rate of noncompliance behaviors and intervention procedures on behavior across adolescent males diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder using a token economy system. Baseline data was in the home environment using a handheld timer, adding up any durations of noncompliant behaviors to come to a total for the session. The potential findings of this study show reduction in noncompliance behaviors using a token economy to establish positive reinforcement and relate to the efficacy of modified environment to quicken duration of task completion. The purpose of this study is to establish baseline data and hypothesize whether a token economy successfully identifies as a salient reinforcer among adolescent males in the same demographic when motivating operations are in place. The participants in this study are three 5-year-old males with a formal diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Participants have been enrolled in a general education kindergarten classroom along with 13 other neurotypical individuals. Each participant has received private ABA services between 12 and 14 months in their home. Each participant comes from a middle-class family in suburban Illinois and is an only child, accompanied by their mother and father in the home. There are 3 exit doors in all participants' homes: front, back, and garage. For the purpose of this study, the garage door is being used as the primary exit to the building. All subjects engage in multiple forms of noncompliant behavior when a demand is placed to leave the house to go to school in the mornings. These behaviors include, but are not limited to, crying, hitting, flopping to the floor, verbal aggression, physical aggression, and other behaviors to escape the demand being placed. The behavior being measured in the current study is noncompliance. Noncompliance is defined as doing anything other than what has been requested by a parent or other adult authority figure within a specific time frame. Noncompliance for all participants will be measured based on duration, as noncompliance behaviors are often ongoing until the clients are in the vehicle and ready for transport to the school facility. The timing of the duration measurement will be taken using a handheld Timex brand stopwatch. As the behavior starts, the stopwatch is to be activated and the watch stopped at the end of each episode. As explained by Cooper, the observer then continues to accumulate the durations of time in this fashion until the end of the observation period, and then transfers the total duration of time shown on the stopwatch to a datasheet. This method of data collection and measurement was chosen due to the nature of the behavior, as a timer is easily carried by the staff. Another reason that this method was used is due to the social validity that the length of the behavior holds with the parents, as they are most concerned with time management and not having all children being late to school and missing class time due to the behaviors at hand. Each session is of equal length, totaling 1 hour. The staff member arrives at the client's home at 8 o'clock a.m. and session is measured until 9 o'clock a.m., although sometimes the entire session duration is not needed. Demand is placed upon all children at 8:20 a.m. to walk through the garage door to the car. At the start of each session, 2 staff members the client is familiar with are let into the household via the front door, with access granted by the client's mother. The same 2 staff members were present for each session of baseline and intervention data collection for each child. At this time, children consistently watched 10 minutes of television and had free time until 8:10 a.m., when demands were placed to put shoes and coats on independently. At this time, the therapists distanced themselves approximately 3 feet from the subject. The participant was expected to complete the demands placed. However, if the participant asks for help from the therapists or parents appropriately, they are allowed to prompt using a least to most strategy. At any time, if the child engages in noncompliant behaviors, the therapist would immediately step back, ignore any behaviors, and start their timer until behavior ceased. If behavior ceased and the participant engaged in appropriate behaviors following the demand being placed, the timer was immediately stopped. Inter-observer agreement. Session behavior data was recorded by 2 registered behavioral technicians who worked for a private ABA company. On 100% of the trials, the therapist independently observed the response made by the subject. The primary practitioner's observations of the occurrence and non-occurrence of the target behavior were then compared to the secondary therapist's data collection results. Each dataset was then used to calculate the IOA data. The inter-observer agreement calculated for the baseline measure of this study was 100% using total count IOA. To calculate total count IOA, the number of agreements were divided by the number of seconds agreed upon plus disagreements, then multiplied by 100. Due to the high IOA scores, data was determined to be reliably observable and therefore was an accurate measure. The data was determined via visual analysis that the duration was stable in baseline across all participants before the intervention phase was implemented. Because of its holistic and integrative nature, visual analysis can accomplish this and was therefore deemed appropriate for this study. For the hypothetical intervention phase of this study, I would use a token economy system to reinforce appropriate behaviors using DRA. A token economy is a contingency management strategy in which students are awarded tokens for displaying appropriate behaviors. If the participant complies with the initial demands for getting ready to leave for school, they will be awarded with one of 4 tokens required to gain a reinforcer. Tokens are described as objects or symbols that can be exchanged for goods or services. The participant has the opportunity to earn each of the 4 tokens for each step involved in the routine, however must earn all of them to gain the reinforcer after all tasks are completed. Each token will be delivered immediately, as during the initial stages of skill acquisition, it is important that students receive reinforcement immediately following the desired behavior. In this case, we will be using stickers that can be placed on a visual poster with the date above each box. If the box has 4 tokens or stickers in it after each session, they are then granted access to a reinforcer. This allows us to use more than one task to build upon the end result of reinforcement, rather than individually reinforcing tasks that the client is able to complete independently. Tokens are considered to serve as condition reinforcers because they initially have no inherent value. Instead, any reinforcing efficacy possessed by the tokens has been acquired through having been paired with the backup reinforcer. The reasoning behind using this intervention at home and not reinforcing once the child has made it all the way to the school facility is due to the behaviors primarily happening in the home setting. The need to offer interventions in natural settings facilitates generalization. Fading this reinforcement schedule by moving it from a fixed ratio of 4, or FR4, to a changing criterion reinforcement schedule could start to take place once the behavior reaches the desired rates. This would go from FR4 to FR3 to FR2, FR1, and then fade, put it on extinction, and possibly do maintenance on it if possible in the future. Parent training would also be a key part of this intervention, as the behavior may show another time when a therapist is not present. However, the parent needs to take the child somewhere. These parent trainings would help intervention progress and would enforce systematic procedures used for training, including delivery of specific instructions, demonstrations, role play, and practice with feedback across the training and generalization settings. Additionally, after this intervention has been faded and the behaviors are on extinction, maintenance should be performed by staff using a task analysis. It is necessary to perform maintenance as to show that once the token system is faded, there is not an immediate decrease in correct responses. The results for the study are displayed here. All participants demonstrated high average levels of noncompliance during the baseline stages. The subject selection would oftentimes engage in behaviors such as verbal aggression, flopping, physical aggression, etc. that was discussed earlier during treatment, but the duration of noncompliance decreased across all participants after only the first session of intervention. Due to the intervention strategies being applied before the start of each school session, observation took place entirely in the home. Reinforcement was delivered using a tangible method, and therefore the delivery of reinforcement was measured and used as a motivating factor for the intervention phase. Due to staggering the baseline conditions, there was no need to return to baseline using the multiple baseline across participant design. Changing criterion allowed for different levels and reinforcement schedules to come into effect and show as an effective intervention. The results of the current study show evidence of the effectiveness of using a token economy to decrease noncompliant behaviors of 3 individuals with autism spectrum disorder in the context of a home setting. The use of multiple baseline across participants' design demonstrates that the increase in social interaction or compliance was associated with the intervention. Additionally, the results show proof that the addition of the token economy reduced target behaviors before the beginning of the school day, which in turn positively affects social interaction for those who have limitations in social behavior. There is a clear link to increased independence across all participants. Some limitations to this study should also be noted, however. One limitation is regarding the participants themselves. All participants in this study had very high levels of noncompliance during this to begin with, depending heavily on the demands placed to independently get prepared to leave. There was no strategy previously in place to reduce these behaviors. Future research should also fashion a treatment plan, which would involve progressively shifting the person applying the intervention from practitioner to parent in this setting. This type of fading shift would result in a prompting system that would most closely resemble the typical delivery of an interaction across multiple settings. Another possible confound in this current study is that we did not measure the generalized effect across settings. It seems as if these skills would easily be applied across settings. However, a future study investigating this particular aspect of noncompliance would also be important to find out what interventions, if any, would aid in the development of this. Lastly, we did not investigate the effects on the participants' peers in the classroom, or how they interact with them specifically, whether their noncompliance at home affected interaction with peers at school, or if the noncompliance reducing at home increased noncompliance at the school. The results of the current investigation are encouraging and provide a basis for additional research on behavioral intervention in schools as well as related areas. Thank you for listening.